Okay, third time lucky. Right. So this is a live sort of stream that I've been trying to do, but for whatever reason, it's not quite coming out like I wanted to. Also, if I'm kind of flipped, if I'm reversed, I'm hoping I can sort that out afterwards. So I'm not actually left-handed, I'm right-handed. But if I can't sort it out, I'll come across as left-handed. Also, I've cut my finger really badly today. Oh yeah, yesterday actually. So it's I can't use it. I've got a concert tonight, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see what happens. Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about Cooder. We're going to be talking about slides, Coodercasters, and Thumbpicks. Okay. So like I said, this is the third attempt at doing this video, this live stream, but eventually I'll sort the technology out so that we can do this more often. Right. So. We're going to talk about a lot of Cooder's gear setup and stuff I've recently found out, and also I've got a good friend of mine who resides in Mississippi, and he is a big Cooder fan, even bigger than I am. Well, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, he's a big fan of Cooders, and he seems to know everything about Cooder, like gear-wise. We're talking, not personal stuff, but his equipment and stuff like that. So he's been really helpful to me. So thanks. You know who you are. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about how I got into slide guitar and how that kind of relates to Cooder. So the way I really first got into slide was playing Delta blues guitar. So Robert Johnson, obviously, but Blind Blake. I mean, Blind Blake wasn't a slide guitar player, but he used D major tuning. And he used his a thumb pick, I think. So it was that kind of style, ragtime. And also Charlie Patton, Tampa Red, and kind of those guys. And when you learn that style of music, it kind of has a profound effect on just everything that you do on the guitar, And so I'll give you an example. So this is a little tune I wrote called Mountain Song. It's from an album I released in 2014. And if I remember how to play it, I'll just play the main theme of it, which is kind of like a well-known sort of blues lick. So that's this kind of style, where you've got this Mississippi style going with the thumb, and you've got this kind of bass line happening, and then really when you're sliding, you're only sliding on the B and the E strings. Your whole melody is on those two strings. For example. So you can kind of see you play a melody and you've got that accompaniment there, and so it's really an acoustic guitar style, but then if you want to transfer that to a Stratocaster, then you need to do a few things to your guitar to make that possible, and the main thing is the action, giving you a bit of a stiffer action. There's going to be two ways of doing that, actually: raising the string height and also playing bigger strings. So I knew that Cooder was using 12s. Way back, when he first started using his Stratocaster, I'm pretty sure he was using 12s. 12s are a really nice gauge because they're not too thick, but they're thick enough to get the tension. Because you've got Derek Trucks and Dwayne Allman, they're playing in E major with 11s on an SG, and they're playing with a quarter-tone bottle, which is very light. The technique is lighter, you know, and they don't have to have high action or a large big gauge because the tension is tighter with the tuning to E, but we're tuning down to D. So when you're tuning down to D major, your string gauge has to go up. So 12s is really the minimum you want. Now, Cooder is actually using 11s now, so he's actually gone down a gauge from 12 to 11. His action's still pretty high. I mean, the one thing with Cooder is apparently, my good friend told me that his action is so high that sometimes the strings hit the top of this plate. It can be a bit of a problem, and so that's how. Just to give an idea of, if you're asking how high Cooder's action is, it's pretty high. You know, as high as it can be, bearing in mind you've got this. My actions, you know, I mean, every guitar is slightly different with the neck heel, so it's going to push the neck up and down. So, but really, what I try and do is try and get the strings pretty much. I don't know if you can see this in the middle of this. So we've got the bottom plate and the top plate, and I'm trying to get those strings to go through this thing. I don't know if you can see that. Pretty much in the middle. So this is got lower action, this guitar. So I don't know if you can see that. Maybe on the bass side, you see a bit better. You know, but they're not that high. So, but it's high enough. I can use this slide here, which is quite thick, and it's no problem. It's not fretting out, and it's not, you know, no problem with that. Now, if we go to a smaller slide, this is a bottle, and this has come from like the Duane Allman style. So really, with a bottle, I tend to wear that on my third finger. Problem with this, of course, is it's got a closed top. So you get condensation, and your callus on this finger will be destroyed. You won't have a callus. Your skin will be nice and soft, which is no good for guitar. But it's, like I say, it's a slightly thinner sound. But generally, I tend to wear this one when I've got higher gain, higher distortion. You know, so that's when, and it doesn't really matter then so much with the tone of this. The benefit of having one of these is you can be a little bit more expressive, but you're wearing this off the knuckle, you know. So it makes you a little bit more dexterous. So you can move around faster with this, but you know, there's some magic about having this on your fourth finger, you know. It's kind of just more delta, it's more blues. You know, so that you know, if you get a really good quality piece of glass, a little bit thicker, it's going to give you a better tone. Cooder, what does Cooder use? He uses, let me just check, because I'll tell you what he uses. He uses a certain type of glass. It's yeah. So what he did, he used old Kentucky bourbon bottles, and he had a few of them cut for him. I think he had one main one that he used for years, and then since then he's had a few new ones. So I think they kind of flare up. They've got a bit of a flare on them, so they're not completely, you know, they're not completely straight down the same side. They've got a bit of a flare. So if you have got an old Kentucky bourbon bottle, then you can cut that up, and you've got the same as Cooder. So that's what Cooder is using. Another thing you have to think about is you're going to be fretting. You're going to be playing this. You might want to be playing, you know. You want to be fretting and playing scales and whatever. Sorry, I can't use my first finger at the moment. It's just so you want to be able to move around the fretboard, and not have your fingers hurt because you've got high action. So that's a kind of, it's all a bit of a balancing act. And I think the only way to do it is, it's not something you can take to a luthier and say set this up to play slide, because really you need to learn how to do it yourself. You need to learn how to move these up and down, and you need to learn as well the pickups, adjusting your pickups. There's a really great video you want to watch of, what's his name, Steve Kimmick. Yeah, that's it, Steve Kimmick. I've had a few chats with him on the gear page. Great guy, really nice guy, amazing guitar tone. Guy has just got phenomenal guitar tone, beautiful fingers work, But Steve Kimmick, there's a great video of him on YouTube, and you can just see him with a screwdriver moving these up and down, moving these pole pieces on here and here through these holes. You get a screwdriver, you pop that through a hole, and then you can tune in each individual string. And I do the same. I thought it was just me that does this, but with these vintage pickups, it's really, really important to, it's like, because you've got an unwound G, so therefore you need to really, I actually need more volume on my G here, but less here, which is really weird. So the string is just vibrating more here than there, and see, so that so you get everything even. Now, another problem you're going to find with the Coodercaster with one of these pickups is when you play this low E string, you pluck it up. See, so when you go down, it's really loud. When you go up, it's not so loud. So that's a real problem. So you need to set that, play some riffs. So, I kind of really dig in there. And you can even hear this kind of scratchy sort of wah, 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 sort of noise. Which is, I don't know how to get rid of that, but I kind of like it, but you can hear it again. This is my fingernails bashing on the strings. So that's, you can kind of use the pickups failings to your advantage almost, So that's another thing you need to be aware of, that when you're picking the string up, it's coming away from the little pole piece, so you're going to get less volume. That might be good or a bad thing, Whereas when you're plucking the string down, it can be really loud, But when it's just, say for example on the G, you can hear that. So when you're plucking up on the G, it's one volume, one dynamic. You go down and it's so you need to, if you're playing live, that can be a real problem, So they're kind of very, very quirky, these ones, the vintage ones. Great thing about the vintage ones though, from the 50s, is they've just got a sound to them that, I don't know, the new ones are really, really good. They're brilliant. I mean, Mark, I've got another friend, I've got two friends called Mark, funnily enough. Probably three actually, but anyway, one Mark is the guy that's telling me all the Cooder stuff. He lives in Mississippi and he's really on it when it comes to Cooder. And my other friend is Mark, who runs a company called Mojo Pickups. Okay, now Mojo Pickups, he's my favourite pickup winder in the world. Not just because he's in the UK, because I was using, back in the day I was using Lindy Freylands and Lolas and all that stuff, Lola, whatever. But Mark is just kind of one level above those, in my opinion. Great thing about him, when he analyzes an old vintage pickup, he sends it to a laboratory, and there's a scientist that actually analyzes the magnet. Because between you and I, another pickup winder in America, no names mentioned, when Mark analyzed their pickup, it wasn't the correct magnet, okay, for these gold foils. So, Mark really is doing a grand job, in sort of analysing the pickups and then recreating them. And we're gonna check out some newer a newer version of this in a minute. So really, when you're setting your guitar up, the most important thing with a Coodercaster is to play it, learn how to adjust these, play it, do some fretting here, do some fretting there, do some sliding, maybe, like use a heavy slide, because with a heavy slide, you're going to really know if it's going to fret out. And I can't really see the action, but, it's just high enough, it's kind of, you're not going to see that string. Yeah, so that's just high enough that I can use a thick slide. And then I don't have to do any. Whoop. Action's high enough, you don't even have to damp, on your left hand. Nice ring. When you got the strings lower, then you really need to start looking into a lighter slide, like one of these bottles, but then you're having less volume. Generally, it's kind of weird. At home, I only ever use this pickup, and I love this pickup. Now, this pickup this is the problem, because these need to be close to the strings. And this one, I've tried to get it up as much as I can to the strings, but fortunately, it's got some pole pieces there, these things here, which you can bring up a little bit more. So all of these are brought up more so that I can get closer to the string, and then it's going to give you a better tone. This one here, however, like I was saying before, with Cooder sets his Coodercaster with the strings, really high, so they're almost sometimes hitting the top of this plate. That's going to be a problem. So, I think Cooder must have, he must have his amps separate. Everything's a lot of tweed. He's gone back to using tweed amps. We're going to talk about his history of gear in a minute. But that's one thing to really take into account of getting the strings, to the pickups, getting the string height. So it's probably one of the hardest guitars to kind of get right, and that's why you really need to learn how to do it yourself. It's no good taking it to a luthier and saying, set this up for me, because they might be able to get it close, but you're going to need to play it and then figure out how to tweak it yourself. So let's talk about slides. As I was saying before, I actually came an acoustic Delta Blues background, playing acoustic guitars, and actually the guitar. So I was playing pretty mean and pretty heavy, and I never really wasn't really interested in playing slide guitar and electric, really, when I was first starting. So I've always played these heavy slides, on my fourth finger. And so sort of seeing Cooder, I didn't really get into Cooder until about 5 years after I've been playing, and I didn't really even know about him. I was just really into the history of blues and learning from the masters, And then I discovered Cooder, and I thought, wow, this is a guy that's taken the the Delta Blues and just transferred it pretty much onto it. So then he's designed this guitar here in order to do that. So it's a very different approach to, say, someone like Dwayne Allman, who's just got a Les Paul, maybe raised the action a little bit, tuned it to E, off you go. It's a different thing, really. Cooder is really taken by Reverend Gary Davis, and he met a lot of the original guys. And then he's really transferred his acoustic technique onto electric guitar. So that's the difference between Cooder, a lot of other slide guitar players, was there at the beginning learning the real Delta Blues, So with that in mind, I do like to use these slides every now and then, especially for recording. You can just get a sound with these. But I am, like I was saying to you, Cooder uses old Kentucky bourbon bottles. So if you're in America, you can actually get hold of these old Kentucky bourbon bottles and make them yourself, or get somebody, at a glass plant who can, you can get the same, style slide as Cooder. Right. Okay. So that's slides. We're going to talk about Thumbpicks. Okay. This is a Jim Dunlop. I don't know if you can see this. So Jim Dunlop Herco Thumbpick, and I've just discovered these, and I really, really love these because for years, when I did this live broadcast a few days ago, it wasn't any good, so I had to delete it. But a gentleman from Scotland was telling me that Tommy Emmanuel, he uses the other. Tommy Emmanuel's a great acoustic guitar player, and he pick, but they've got the thinner strip, so it's almost like that thickness. Instead of having like almost a plectrum size thing here, they have a thin strip, the normal Jim Dunlop Thumbpicks. Apparently he buys 100 of them, and only 3 of them out of that 100. So, that's why I've tried to use them, but I've never liked them, and only the last couple of weeks I've got hold of these, and I'm started using a Thumbpick again. So the reason I got hold of these was because Cooder is now using these. Okay, I haven't seen him use a Thumbpick before, but so really good, especially on a Coodercaster, because they're not too brittle like the other Jim Dunlop Thumbpicks. Quite brittle sounding, quite harsh. So check them out. Herco Thumbpicks, really good. Let's have a look at this other Coodercaster. Okay, so this one here has got a modern reproduction. So Mark from Mojo Pickups has done a really grand job of doing, reconstructing the old lap steel pickup. And it's it's got a really good tone, slightly different. What I find with these, you can kind of set them and forget. Whereas with the vintage one, you're constantly tweaking it because the screws are rattling and it's always going out, changing its sound. But this here, I've just set it pretty much when I got it, and I've just left it, and it always works really well. Look at that pattern. That's got a little bit more top end. The vintage one's got more top end. This is a little bit more mellow. The thing about this guitar here is that it's got flat ones. So what I wanted to do with this one was kind of recreate Cooder's Daphne Blue Stratocaster. And Daphne Blue Stratocaster actually has a Bigsby on it. And it has a Bigsby bridge on it as well. So it's quite a strange guitar. But the thing about it is it has flat wound strings. So this is a set of flat wounds. Again, these are 12s. The slightly higher steel on this one, and the gauge is quite big, especially on the bass strings, so they're quite tight, not too tight, but they hold the detuning really, really well, so that's why 12s on a Coodercaster are, for me, they're a must, and if you want to shred and play Eddie Van Halen, then get another guitar to play them on, like an SG or Coodercasters. You need that tension, that big sound, This has got an original Gaia-tone SG Gold Foil on it, which is a little bit different from the Tisco Gold Foil. The Tisco Gold Foil is more like, if you could probably think more of a Howling Wolf, It's got the sound of those kind of cheap guitars that the blues guys used to use in the 50s and 60s. It's more that vibe. Where this here is it's actually a very, very good, it's very powerful sort of neck pickup. You know, it's a big sound. It sounds like a piano. You know. Yeah, so that's really cool. These pickups and just getting your action nice and high. Okay, we're going to talk about Cooder's amp setup and his effects. So as far as his amps goes, he's using a few different amps now. I'm going to see if I can just find out from my friend what exactly he's using. What has he got? Using a magnetone. So he had a magnetone amp, which is very, very nice. And he's got a tweed amp in there. I think he's got 4 amplifiers. Yeah, so he's running four amps. And Mark sent me the whole lineup. No, can't find it. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so you can probably see photos of his latest sort of tour. But he's, I know he's got 4 amps and he's using something called a Green Man. And it's a really cool thing. It splits the signal kind of from your effects. You go into like a mono out from his effects into this kind of thing called a Green Man, and that splits it into 2 signals, and then I think he's got further 2 splitters to get it into 4 amps. So he's actually gigging at the moment with 4 amplifiers. The Green Man, however, is it's a really cool setup. It's actually got tubes inside it, and then they're like microphone, something like a microphone DI tube or something. It's got a buffer as well, so it's a pretty unique piece of kit. And if you want to know more about that, then just leave a comment, and I can actually tell you the specifics of inside one of them as well. So if you want to know more about that, I can tell you. But that's called a Green Man, and that's how Cooder basically has a little stand next to him, and he just has that one knob which he turns, and then you can affect the volume of all those 4 amps. So it's pretty interesting. And he's also using effects-wise. This is a really cool piece of gear. It's called Crucial Audio Delay. So check out Crucial Audio Delay. I'm definitely going to get one of these things. They're kind of a big box like that. And Cooder is using 3 delays, which is pretty strange. It's got a Quicksilver. I think he's got a Quicksilver delay and a Blue Fountain delay. Yeah, so Quicksilver delay, Blue Fountain delay, and also the Crucial Audio delay. So there's 3 delays in his setup, which is very, very interesting, to say the least. When I was first getting into Cooder, the first thing I really listened to was his Get Rhythm album. And around that time, he was using a Dumble amp, and I think he was using some kind of was it a Dumble and a magnetone or something, hooked up, and a high watt power amp. So and then he started using a DI strip of really expensive DI strip anyway. But anyway, he had a very complicated setup. But there was one. I think it's a live concept. It's called Cooder and the Something Aces or something. It's an incredible concept. You can get it on YouTube. And I heard the tone, and the tone was just absolutely amazing. It was like the best tone I've ever heard from anybody, in his beautiful playing. So I did a bit of research, and I found out that it was a Dumble amplifier. And because I've been into Robin Ford, I went down the Dumble amplifier route, for many years. For about 10 years, I was playing basically a Dumble over Drive Special clone. It wasn't a real, and you know, that was really great. But I felt it was never that great for a slide sound, you know. And I really wanted to get into tweed amps, you know, to buy some tweeds, because a lot of my friends had vintage tweeds, and I couldn't, you know, they're expensive. A tweed amp's expensive. Even a Fender reissue of a tweed deluxe is pretty expensive. I was looking at Victoria amps and sort of, you know, toying around with the idea of getting a Victoria amps tweed amp. Then I discovered a young guy and he was using these Filmasound amps, so I went and got a couple of them, and they've been really great. And basically all of the Filmasound projector amp is based on a style. It's not based on a tweed circuit, but a tweed circuit is similar, you know, 6v6. It's a similar kind of sound. So I think, and it's 15 watts. So I think the trick with slide guitar is to get something which is really low wattage. And then, you know, when you play a note hard, it jumps out, you get those dynamics, and, you know, the Dumble thing is great, and I'll continue to use them in some capacity, but for me at the moment, just using these Filmasound amps or low wattage amps are really the way to go with slide guitar, you know. Today I'm using a Filmasound, and my Filmasounds are built by a guy called Bill Crinard, who used to own or work in Two-Rock. I think he had a partnership. And one thing I'm really into is a slapback delay. Not only because Robin Ford uses a slapback delay, but Cooder now is using a slapback delay. So if you listen to Cooder's new album, he's got some really nice tones. He's using an Archer clon pedal and a slapback delay, and it just sounds fantastic. It's a really, really nice sound. So, I mean, I was using a slapback delay for a long time because I recently picked up on that. It's really, really good. So I've got a reverb. I don't know if you're going to hear this, but the reverb's from the Victoria Reverberamo, which is a great reverb unit. And then I've got a slapback from a timeline, you know. So. You know, it just gives you a really kind of vintage sound. You know, it's got that, you know, slapback. To me, I always think of a tape, or, you know, those sort of you know, Sun House recording, Sun Studio recordings. You know, where you get that kind of reverb, you know, sort of small room kind of sound. Thing about Cooder's playing as well, it's really mellow. You know, when you think. It's always been pretty mellow, and I think that again has come from his acoustic Delta slide playing, you know. So the slapback kind of really brings it out, you know. Yeah, so that's sort of Cooder gear. I think we've gone through slides. You know, check out some slides. Again, the whole dilemma. I've done a video. I think I did a video on it. Which finger to wear your slide on. You can check that out, and that's a really, really important thing to think about. You're going to invest a lot of time playing one technique, and it might not be the right technique. But I think Bonnie Raitt uses a second finger. You know, so that's really one thing and she sounds amazing. You know, Bonnie Raitt is one of my favourite slide guitar players. You know, something this is interesting because, for example, I'm doing a tour next year with a female Cooder player. You know, and there's a real difference between female musicians. I know this might come across as sexist, but I don't mean it to. But there's a real difference between female musicians and male musicians playing the Cooder, this is personally what I find. When you're working with a female musician playing a Cooder, the particular one that I'm working with, you know, the melody is the key to it. You know, the song. You know, where sometimes when I'm playing with male Cooder players, it's like, you know. So it's a real joy to hear a Cooder being played in that kind of way, you know. And I think in slide guitar, it's what I hear with Bonnie Raitt is it's just real mellow, it's real beautiful, you know. And some guys, and probably myself, I've done this in the past. You know, you can kind of go, you know, and then you're losing that beautiful slide sound that the Delta guys got. Or you listen to Paris, Texas by Cooder, you know, and it's so relaxed, it's so chilled, you know. Okay, but let's go to the next one. We're using the wrong slide, that's why. So, you know, that's how you should be playing slide, is not more like a woman, but you know, if you listen to some women slide players, you know, and musical, it's more relaxed, more chilled, you know. Especially like Bonnie Raitt, just an amazing slide player. I remember once when I was a young guy, I went into a guitar shop here in London in Denmark Street, and I was trying out. There was a slide guitar shop. It was wicked. It was full of resonators and stuff, you know. And I just got a resonator, so I go, you know. And the guy behind the counter just said, "Man, chill out. It's Sunday morning, you know." I think it's sorry. Yeah, I think it's Sunday or Saturday. Sunday morning, man. You don't need to play like that on a Sunday morning, you know. And I was thinking, you know, that's right. You know, music's not about showing off. It's about playing real mellow. So with these instruments, you can play real mellow, and it's a beautiful sound. You know, with these pickups, they're very open. You know, they're not. You know, this, for example, here, it's not powerful, but it's almost like a hollow sound. It's you know, and you can get those really nice chords. You know, you can play some real sweet slide on top. Yeah, so that's about it for me this morning. Well, it's not this morning, it's nearly lunchtime here in the UK. I've got to get ready for a concert tonight in London. So if you're out in West London, I'll be playing at the Ealing. There's some kind of Ealing festival. I think it's called the Soundbite Festival. So we're going to be playing with my twin brother. We're going to be doing lots of Delta blues, and hopefully my finger will be okay. What I actually did with it, in fact, I'm not even going to tell you because it's horrible. But otherwise, I'm just going to have to play with these three fingers, you know. But anyway, great to talk to you guys. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, especially about Cooder, leave them in the comments. And I think we might sort of do this regularly on a Saturday now, because it's good fun to do it. But take care, and All the best. Right, I'm going to work out how to switch this off. Oh, here we go. Yeah.